Lightning clawed the midnight sky as Kael Drayven's black hypercar hydroplaned across the rain-slicked mountain pass. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. In the final heartbeat before impact, a woman's silver-lit silhouette appeared through the windshield, her palms pressed to his chest, eyes glowing like moonlit amber, and the world went silent. Welcome back, my beautiful family. Before we begin, please click subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's get into the story. The first thing Kael noticed when consciousness returned was the absence of pain. Not the dull throb of a concussion, not the wet heat of blood trickling down his temple, nothing. He lay sprawled across cracked asphalt that should have been slick with his own crimson, yet his white dress shirt was pristine, the Italian wool untouched by even a single tear. The Lamborghini Aventador behind him, his pride, a seven-figure monument to engineering, sat undented beneath the storm strobe, headlights cutting twin tunnels through the downpour as if it had never left the showroom floor. He pushed to his elbows, rain needling his face. Impossible, he muttered, the word tasting like copper and logic. Kael Drayven did not believe in miracles. He believed in datasets, in predictive algorithms, in the cold certainty of physics. A 180 miles per hour skid into a granite cliff face did not end with a man walking away unscathed. Yet here he was. A scent lingered beneath the ozone, lavender threaded with wood smoke, delicate and impossible in the storm. He turned, searching the empty road that snaked through Colorado's San Juan Mountains. No footprints marred the puddles. No tire tracks but his own. Only the echo of a woman's voice, soft as moth wings, hold on. Kael's pulse hammered against his ribs. Hallucination. Adrenaline-fueled phantasm. He'd read the studies. Near-death experiences triggered vivid projections in 11.4% of survivors. Statistically negligible. Still, his fingers trembled as he reached for his phone. The screen illuminated, 12:07 a.m., October 31st. Halloween. Of course. The drive back to Aspen took 43 minutes. 43 minutes of white-knuckled silence, of replaying the crash in high definition, the guardrail buckling, the hood crumpling like foil, the moment his seatbelt should have snapped his spine. Each recollection ended the same way, with her. Cloaked in silver light, dark skin luminous against the storm, braids whipping like storm-tossed vines. Her hands had hovered inches from his sternum, and heat had bloomed through his ribs, knitting bone and flesh with impossible precision. He parked beneath the glass and steel monolith of Drayven Tower, his penthouse crowning the skyline like a crown of thorns, and killed the engine. The lobby's motion sensors flickered to life, bathing Italian marble in cold LED. Security nodded as he passed. The night guard's eyes widened at the mud on Kael's Ferragamos, but asked no questions. Billionaires were allowed their eccentricities. Inside the elevator, he caught his reflection. Pale beneath the tan, gray eyes bloodshot, the faint shadow of stubble along a jaw that hadn't smiled in years. 34 years old, Forbes' youngest self-made tech mogul, and tonight he looked haunted. The penthouse doors slid open soundlessly. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Aspen's blizzard-lashed peaks, the town below a scatter of amber lights. Kael poured 2 fingers of Yamazaki 18, downed it, poured again. The whiskey burned less than the memory of her eyes. He opened his laptop. Security footage from the pass, nothing. Traffic cams, blank. The car's black box? Wiped clean, as if the crash had been erased from reality itself. By 3 a.m., he'd hacked into DOT's database, cross-referenced weather patterns, even pulled satellite imagery. 0 anomalies. Except one, a 30-second thermal bloom at the crash site, shaped unmistakably like a human silhouette. Kael leaned back, the leather chair creaking. "Who are you?" he whispered to the dark. Sleep came in fragments, her face behind his eyelids, the scent of lavender chasing him into dreams. He woke at dawn with the answer burning like a brand. Find her. The search began methodically. Private investigators. Facial recognition algorithms trained on the thermal imprint. A $500,000 bounty posted on dark web forums for any lead on a black woman mid-20s, seen on Highway 550 Halloween night. Days bled into weeks. Leads trickled in grainy gas station footage, a barista's vague recollection, then dried up. Kael's board noticed his distraction. Stock dipped 2.3%. He didn't care. On November 14th, a ping. An apothecary in Crested Butte, population 1,600. Veyra's Remedies. Owner, Marian Veyra. The grainy driver's license photo stole his breath. High cheekbones, full mouth, eyes that even in pixelated gray held galaxies. It was her. He was in the Gulf Stream within the hour. Crested Butte emerged from the Rockies like a postcard. Victorian storefronts dusted with snow, strings of Christmas lights already twinkling though Thanksgiving was weeks away. Veyra's Remedies occupied a narrow brick building wedged between a bookstore and a microbrewery. The sign was hand-painted, curling gold letters over a crescent moon. A bell chimed as Kael pushed inside. Warmth enveloped him, cedar and sage, dried herbs hanging in bundles from the rafters. Glass jars lined shelves like stained glass soldiers, moonflower, wolfsbane, dragon's blood. Behind the counter, she stood with her back to him, measuring dried lavender into a mortar. Her braids were swept into a crown today, threaded with tiny silver beads that caught the light. "Be with you in a moment," she called, voice smooth as river stone. Kael's heart slammed against his ribs. "Take your time." She turned, and the pestle slipped from her fingers, clattering to the counter. For a heartbeat, the shop's ambient hum vanished, replaced by the roar of blood in his ears. Recognition flashed across her face, there and gone, replaced by a polite shopkeeper's smile. "Welcome to Veyra's. Looking for something specific?" He stepped closer, boots silent on the worn pine floor. "You tell me." Her gaze flicked to his chest, exactly where her hands had hovered that night, then back to his face. "Cold season's starting. I've got an immunity blend. I'm not here for tea." The words came out rougher than intended. He softened them. "Halloween. San Juan Pass. You were there." Color drained from her cheeks, but her chin lifted. "Lots of accidents on that road. Storm was brutal. My car was totaled. I should be dead." He reached into his coat, pulled out a printout of the thermal image, slid it across the counter. "This is you." She didn't touch it. Thermal imaging's unreliable in rain. Could be anyone. "Look at me." His voice cracked like the storm that night. "Please." Something shifted in her eyes, resignation, maybe fear. She glanced at the shop's front window, where snow had begun to fall in fat, lazy flakes. "Close the door." He obeyed. The lock clicked with finality. Marian, because it was her, no question now, leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You shouldn't have come." Too late. He couldn't look away from her mouth, the way her lower lip trembled before she caught it between her teeth. "You saved my life. I stabilized you until the ambulance arrived," she said carefully. "That's all." There was no ambulance. He stepped closer, close enough to see the faint scar slicing through her left eyebrow, the way her pulse fluttered at her throat. "My car was untouched. My injuries, gone." "Explain that." "I can't." The words were a whisper. "Try." She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the irises had shifted, still brown, but ringed with molten gold. "Some things aren't meant to be explained, Mr. Drayven. They're meant to be left alone." "How do you know my name?" A humorless smile. "Everyone knows your name. You're on the cover of Wired this month." He ignored the deflection. "Dinner. Tonight. Let me thank you properly. I don't date clients. You haven't sold me anything yet." Her laugh was startled out of her, rich, startled, real. "You're persistent." "I'm thorough." He pulled a card from his wallet, set it beside the thermal printout. 8 o'clock. The Crested Butte Chop House. "I'll have a table." She stared at the card like it might bite. "This is a mistake." "Maybe," he said. "But I've built an empire on calculated risks." The bell chimed again as he left. Outside, snow muffled the world, but inside his chest, something roared to life, hot, reckless, alive. That night, she wore emerald silk that hugged curves he'd only glimpsed in moonlight. Conversation started stiff, weather, the town ski season, but whiskey loosened tongues. She told him about growing up in New Orleans, her grandmother's garden heavy with night blooming cereus. He told her about foster homes and coding in public libraries until security kicked him out. When the waiter brought tiramisu neither had ordered, their fingers brushed reaching for the same spoon. Electricity sparked, literal static, or maybe something more. Later, walking her home through streets lit by gas lamps, he asked the question burning since Halloween. What really happened that night? Marian stopped beneath a wrought iron arch dripping with icicles. Some questions don't have answers you're ready for. Try me. She studied him, really studied, as if peeling back layers of code to find the man beneath. You believe in logic, Kael. In ones and zeros. What if I told you the world runs on something older? Show me. For a moment, he thought she would. Her hand lifted, palm up, and the snowflakes above it froze mid-fall, suspended in a perfect sphere of glittering ice. Then her fingers curled, and the sphere shattered into ordinary snow. Some demonstrations, she said softly, come with a price. He wanted to argue, to demand proof, but the look in her eyes stopped him, ancient, weary, impossibly sad. Instead, he kissed her. It was meant to be gentle. A thank you, a beginning. But the moment their lips met, the world tilted. Heat exploded through his veins, her magic or his imagination, he couldn't tell. She tasted like storm and salvation. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. This can't happen, she whispered against his mouth. Too late, he said again. That night, he dreamed of silver light and lavender smoke. He woke with her name on his lips and the certainty that whatever she was, which angel hallucination, he was already lost. Across town, in the apothecary's back room, Marian pressed trembling fingers to her lips. The candles on her altar guttered though no wind stirred the air. On the scrying mirror, a crack spiderwebbed from edge to edge, the first sign. She had broken the law of balance. Saved a life not hers to save. And now, the Lumia would come for her. But as she touched the place where Kael's kiss still burned, she wondered if damnation might be worth the price. What would you risk for a love that defies every law of nature and logic? Drop your thoughts below. I'm dying to know what you'd choose in Kael's shoes. Marian Veyra had never been afraid of the dark. She had been born in it, New Orleans, 1998, during a hurricane that swallowed the 9th Ward in Blackwater. Her grandmother, Mama Odette, had lit a single white candle in the shotgun house on North Prieur Street and told the storm to hush. The wind obeyed. That was Marian's first memory. Candlelight, the scent of melted wax and chicory, and the certainty that some forces bowed to women who knew their names. But the dark that followed her now was different. It had teeth. She stood in the apothecary's back room long after Kael's footsteps faded into the snow. The scrying mirror lay cracked on the altar, its silver surface bleeding shadows that writhed like smoke. A single word pulsed beneath the fracture, etched in a language older than Latin, anathema. Marian's knees buckled. She caught herself on the edge of the workbench, knocking over a jar of dried mugwort. The herbs scattered like green confetti across the floorboards. She didn't bother to sweep them up. The mess felt appropriate, her life, once meticulously ordered, now spilled and broken. The law of balance was absolute. One life for one life. The Lumia had guarded that covenant since the first which drowned in Salem's tide. No exceptions. No mercy. And Marian had shattered it with both hands to save a man who didn't even believe in her kind. She pressed her palm to her sternum, where the bond had taken root. A faint warmth lingered, like a coal banked beneath ash. Kael's heartbeat, synced to hers since the night she'd poured her essence into his ruined body. She could feel him even now, 3 miles away, pacing the penthouse suite he'd rented at the lodge at Crested Butte, replaying their kiss with the same analytical fervor he applied to quarterly reports. Foolish. Reckless. Alive. The bell above the shop door chimed. Marian froze. It was past closing. She'd locked up. Hadn't she? Marian. A woman's voice, low and familiar. We need to talk. Relief and dread collided in her chest. She stepped into the storefront. Luz stood just inside the threshold, snow melting from the hem of her long wool coat. Luz had been Marian's initiate sister in the Lumia, same crescent brand on their left wrists, same oath sworn beneath a blood moon. But where Marian's magic smelled of lavender and earth, Luz's carried the bite of ozone and iron. Stormcaller. Enforcer. The coven's left hand. You shouldn't be here, Marian said. Neither should you. Luz's dark eyes flicked to the cracked mirror visible through the open doorway. The veil's screaming, Mari. You think the high circle won't notice? Marian's mouth went dry. I stabilized him. That's all. You rewove his soul with threads of your own. Luz stepped closer, boots leaving wet prints on the pine. I felt the ripple in Denver. The ancestors are restless. The hunters are already moving. Hunters. The word tasted like rust. Marian had seen them once as a child, shadows given form, cloaked in raven feathers and silence. They did not kill. They unmade. A witch caught breaking the law simply ceased, body magic, name erased from the Book of Lives. I had to, Marian whispered. He was innocent. Innocent. Luz's laugh was sharp. Kael Drayven's company is building an AI that maps human consciousness. You think that's coincidence? The curse on his bloodline. I don't know about any curse. You will. Luz reached into her coat, withdrew a small velvet pouch. This is nightshade and coffin nail. Burn it at the crossroads tonight. It'll mask your signature for 72 hours. After that, she trailed off, the unspoken hanging heavy, run. Marian took the pouch, fingers brushing Luz's. The contact sparked, static or warning, she couldn't tell. Why help me? Because I loved you once. Luz's voice cracked. And because the man you saved isn't what he seems. Be careful, Mari. Some doors, once opened, can't be closed. She was gone before Marian could ask what she meant, the bell chiming a second time like a funeral knell. Kael couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony of his suite, city lights glittering below like scattered circuitry. The kiss replayed on a loop, the way Marian's lips had parted on a gasp, the taste of her, honey and smoke and something electric. He'd kissed women before. Models. Heiresses. A Swedish princess once, in a Stockholm penthouse that overlooked the Baltic. None had left him this unmoored. His phone buzzed. Marian Veyra, business partner, oldest friend, the only person Kael trusted with root access to Drayven AI's core systems. You're up late, Marian said without greeting. Boards asking questions. Stocks volatile. Let them ask. Kael's breath fogged in the cold. I'm taking a personal week. Silence stretched. Then, this about the accident? Kael's grip tightened on the railing. He hadn't told anyone the details. Not even the PI firm. What do you know about it? Enough to know you're not yourself. Aaron's tone shifted, concerned now. Come back to Denver. We'll run diagnostics. Make sure there's no lingering trauma. Lingering trauma. As if a wiped black box and spontaneous cellular regeneration could be filed under PTSD. I'm fine, Kael said. Better than fine. Another pause. There's something else. The new neural mapping project, Project Revenant, it's showing anomalies. Spikes in the theta band, localized to your biometric signature. Like someone's piggybacking your brainwaves. Kael's blood chilled. Impossible. Tell that to the data. Aaron hesitated. Look, just get back here. We'll figure it out together. The call ended. Kael stared at the phone, then at the town below. Somewhere in that patchwork of light, Marian was burning herbs to hide from monsters he didn't believe in. He needed answers. And he needed them from her. Marian stood at the crossroads just outside town, where Elk Avenue met the old mining road, where the veil between worlds thinned to tissue. Snow fell in earnest now, muffling the world. She knelt, drew a circle in the slush with a hawthorn wand, and emptied Luz's pouch into the center. The nightshade ignited with a hiss, blue flames licking upward. Marian whispered the binding words her grandmother had taught her. By root and bone, by blood and stone, let me be unseen, let me be unknown. The fire flared, then died. For a moment, silence reigned. Then the wind shifted. It came from the north, cold as a crypt, carrying the scent of wet earth and decay. Marian's circle flickered, the salt line bleeding into the snow. She rose slowly, wand gripped tight. Figures emerged from the tree-lean. 3. Cloaked in shadow, faces obscured by hoods of raven feathers. Hunters. The leader stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was many, male, female, child, ancient, all layered like sediment. Marian Veyra of the Lumia. You have broken the law. Her heart thundered. I claim sanctuary. The accords allow. Sanctuary is void when balance is shattered. The hunter raised a hand. Black vines erupted from the snow, writhing toward her ankles. Come willingly, or be unmade. Marian's magic surged, instinct, not thought. She slammed the wand into the ground. Light exploded outward, lavender and gold, shredding the vines to ash. The hunter staggered but did not fall. You weaken yourself, the leader intoned. Each spell costs the life you stole. She felt it then, the drain, like blood leaving a wound. The bond with Kael pulsed, a second heartbeat draining her own. But she would not go quietly. Marian ran. She fled down the mining road, boots slipping on ice, breath sawing in her lungs. The hunters followed, not running, gliding, shadows stretching impossibly long. She ducked into the forest, weaving between pines heavy with snow. Her magic flared again, cloaking her in illusion, a deer, a fox, a drift of snow, but each shift siphoned more strength. A root caught her foot. She went down hard, cheek kissing frozen earth. The hunters closed in. Then headlights sliced the dark. A black Range Rover skidded to a halt. The driver's door flew open. Marian. Kael. He didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward her, coat flapping, something gleaming in his hand, a flare gun from the SUV's emergency kit. He fired into the trees. The flare burst crimson, illuminating the hunters for a heartbeat, pale faces, eyes like polished obsidian, before they melted back into shadow. Marian scrambled to her feet. You have to go. Not without you. He grabbed her wrist, pulled her toward the car. The hunters reformed, closer now, vines lashing like whips. Kael shoved her into the passenger seat, slammed the door, and floored it. Tires spun, caught, and the Rover fishtailed down the road. In the rear view, the hunters stood motionless, watching. They didn't follow. Marian's hands shook as she buckled in. You shouldn't have come. Story of my life lately. Kael's knuckles were white on the wheel. What the hell were those things? Consequences, she said faintly. He glanced at her. You're bleeding. She looked down. A thin line of crimson traced her palm where the hawthorn wand had splintered. The wound glowed faintly, edges sealing even as she watched. Kael's eyes widened. Drive, she said. Just drive. They ended up at his suite, the lodge's most exclusive, a sprawling area of glass and stone. Kael locked the door, engaged every deadbolt, then poured 2 glasses of scotch with shaking hands. Marian sank onto the leather sofa, exhaustion crashing over her like a wave. The room smelled of pine and wealth, but beneath it, she caught Kael's scent, clean skin, cedar cologne, and something uniquely him. The bond hummed, content to be near its anchor. He handed her a glass. Talk. She took a sip, let the burn ground her. You won't believe me. Try me anyway. So she did. She told him about the Lumia, how her ancestors had guarded the veil since the first humans feared the dark. About the law of balance, the hunters, the price of interference. She left out the curse on his bloodline, Luz's warning still echoed. When she finished, the fire in the hearth had burned low. Kael stared into the flames. Magic. Yes. You're a witch. I prefer herbalist on my taxes. A huff of laughter escaped him, surprising them both. And those things. Hunters. They'll come again. He turned to her then, eyes fierce. Not if I have anything to say about it. You don't understand. She set the glass down, stood on unsteady legs. Every time I use magic to protect you, it takes a piece of me. The bond, we're tethered now. Your life for mine. His jaw tightened. Then we break it. You can't. Not without killing one of us. Silence stretched, thick with unspoken things. Finally, he crossed the room, cupped her face in hands that trembled slightly. I don't accept that, he said. There's always a workaround. A patch. I built an empire on finding solutions no one else could. This isn't code, Kael. No, he agreed. It's you. He kissed her again, slower this time, deliberate. A promise. When they parted, her lips tingled, and the bond sang. Outside, snow muffled the world. Inside, the fire crackled, and for the first time in weeks, Marian let herself believe in impossible things. Like love. Like survival. But in the ashes of the hearth, a single ember glowed black, nightshade residue from Luz's pouch, spelling a warning neither of them could read. If you discovered the person you loved was slowly dying to keep you alive, would you let them go, or fight the universe itself to save them? Tell me your choice in the comments. I need to know. Chapter 3. The Mark Beneath the Skin. The morning after the hunters came, Kael Drayven did what he always did when the world refused to compute. He built a system. By 7 a.m., the lodge suite had been transformed. The dining table, solid walnut, imported from Kyoto, was buried beneath 3 laptops, a thermal drone, and a whiteboard scrawled with equations that would make a NASA engineer weep. A 3D printer in the corner whirred, spitting out a prototype drone rotor every 12 minutes. Kael hadn't slept. His eyes were bloodshot, hair tousled, but his mind ran at 3.2 gigahertz. Marian watched from the doorway, wrapped in one of his dress shirts, sleeves rolled to her elbows. The fabric swallowed her, but the sight of her in it, bare legs, braids loose, the faint glow of the bond pulsing beneath her collarbone, sent a jolt through him stronger than any espresso. "You're going to burn out," she said. "Burnout's for people who accept limits." He didn't look up from the code scrolling across his center screen. "I'm reverse engineering the hunters." She crossed the room, set a mug of chicory coffee beside his elbow. "They're not software, Kael. Everything's software if you find the right language." He tapped a key, the drone on the table lifted an inch, rotors humming. Carbon nanotube frame, EMP pulse generator, UVC floodlights. If your hunters are shadow-based, light disrupts cohesion. Basic spectral analysis. Marian's lips twitched. "You weaponized a room service drone." "Upgraded. It's now a hunter interdiction platform." He finally met her eyes. "HIP for short." Despite everything, she laughed. Short, startled, real. The sound cracked something open in his chest. He stood, stretched, vertebrae popping. "We're leaving Crested Butte. Today. My jet's fueled at Gunnison. Denver's got better defenses. Drayven Tower's a fortress." Marian's smile faded. "Running won't help. The Lumia doesn't need GPS. Then we don't run. We negotiate." He pulled a hoodie from the couch, tossed it to her. "But first, breakfast. I ordered beignet. Figured you'd want a taste of home." The gesture, small, thoughtful, hit her harder than any grand declaration. She slipped the hoodie on, inhaling the faint trace of his cologne. "You're impossible. Part of my charm." They ate on the balcony, snow-capped peaks glowing rose gold in the sunrise. Marian dusted powdered sugar from her fingers and watched Kael dissect a beignet with surgical precision. "Tell me about the curse," he said suddenly. She froze. "Luz mentioned that?" "Overheard. Eavesdropping Sahabi." He licked sugar from his thumb. "You said my accident wasn't random. Explain." Marian set her plate aside. The bond thrummed, urging truth. "Your bloodline, Drayven, it's marked. Centuries ago, one of your ancestors made a bargain with the Lumia. Power in exchange for service. He reneged. The coven cursed his descendants to die young violently, on All Hallows' Eve. The magic resets every generation." Kael's jaw tightened. "I'm 34. My father died at 33 car crash, Halloween night. His father before him, same age, same night. You're saying it's not coincidence?" "No," she reached for his hand. His fingers were cold. "When I saved you, I interrupted the cycle. The curse rebooted, and latched onto me as the new conduit." He stared at their joined hands. "So every year on Halloween. It'll try again. Through me, if necessary." Her voice cracked. "The hunters aren't just after me for breaking the law. They're cleaning up a mess I made worse." Kael stood abruptly, paced to the railing. "Then we end it. Permanently." "You can't." "I can." He spun back, eyes blazing. "I've got access to the most advanced quantum processor on the planet. If this curse is a program, I'll find the source code and delete it." Marian rose, joined him at the railing. "Magic isn't binary, Kael. It's blood and intent and sacrifice. Then we out-sacrifice it." He cupped her face. I'm not losing you. The kiss that followed was fierce, teeth and desperation, a vow sealed in heat. When they broke apart, her lips were swollen, his breath ragged. Below, a black SUV idled in the lodge's circular drive. Tinted windows. No plates. The Bond flared in warning. Hunters, Marian whispered. Kael was already moving. Drone, activate Defense Protocol Alpha. The hip whirred to life, zipping past them to the balcony's edge. It fired a pulse, inaudible, but the SUV's engine died instantly. Doors opened. 3 figures emerged, cloaked as before. Kael grabbed Marian's hand. Back door. Now. They sprinted through the suite, down the service stairs. Kael's phone buzzed. Aaron again. Not now, he snapped, answering. Kael, the anomalies, they're spiking. Your vitals are flatlining in the system. Where the hell are you? Busy. He hung up, shoved open the exit. The rover waited, engine running, his driver, ex-Secret Service, loyal to a fault. They piled in. Tires squealed as they peeled out, the hunters already gliding after them on foot, impossibly fast. Gunnison Airport, Kael ordered. Fast. Marian clutched the seat as they fishtailed onto the highway. In the rear view, the hunters faded into the tree line, but she felt their gaze like frost on her spine. The Gulfstream G700 cut through clouds at 51,000 feet, a silver dart bound for Denver. Kael worked the entire flight, fingers flying over keyboards, voice barking orders to remote teams. Marian dozed fitfully, dreams plagued by raven wings and Kael's blood on her hands. They landed at Centennial Airport under a sky the color of bruised plums. A convoy waited, 3 black Suburbans, armed security. Drayven Tower loomed downtown, a monolith of glass and steel piercing the skyline. Inside the private elevator, Kael finally paused. He turned to Marian, brushed a braid from her face. Whatever happens, he said, you're not facing it alone. The doors opened onto the penthouse, his true home. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360-degree view of the Rockies. The space was stark, minimalist, white marble, chrome, a single Basquiat on the wall. No warmth. Until now. Marian stepped inside, felt the bond settle. Safe. For now. Kael led her to a hidden panel. It irised open, revealing a biometric vault. Project Revenant, he said. Neural mapping. Consciousness upload. If the curse wants your soul, we'll give it a decoy. She stared at the server racks glowing behind glass, thousands of qubits humming in superconducting harmony. You want to upload me? Back up. If the hunters come, your essence survives in the cloud. Immortal. Horror clawed her throat. That's not life, Kael. That's a ghost in a machine. Better than nothing. She shook her head. The Lumia would see it as abomination. They'd destroy everything. Then we convince them otherwise. He pulled her close. Trust me. I do, she whispered. That's what scares me. That night, they made love for the first time. It started slow, his hands learning the map of her scars, her mouth tracing the freckles across his shoulders. The bond ignited, a feedback loop of sensation. When he entered her, the world narrowed to heat and breath and the impossible certainty that they were 2 halves of the same soul. After, they lay tangled in silk sheets, city lights painting gold across their skin. Tell me something true, he murmured against her temple. Marian traced the line of his jaw. Every time you touch me, I feel the curse loosen its grip. Like love is the counterspell. He kissed her palm. Then we love louder. But sleep brought dreams. Marian stood in a field of lavender under a blood-red moon. Kael lay dying at her feet, chest torn open. A voice, not the hunter's but older, whispered from the earth. The debt is paid in blood or bond. Choose. She woke gasping. Kael was already up, staring at his laptop. Look at this. The screen showed a live feed from Drayven Tower's subbasement, Project Revenant's core. A figure stood among the servers. Hooded. Familiar. Marian Veyra. He held a crystal, black, faceted, pulsing with the same void as the hunters. As Marian watched, he pressed it to a server. Code scrolled, corrupted. The temperature in the room plummeted. Kael's face went white. He has root access. Marian's blood turned to ice. He's not just your partner. He's one of them. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Aaron, Kael's friend since MIT, the man who'd stood godfather to his prototypes, was a warlock. And he was opening a door. Alarms blared. The tower's AI Athena spoke in a calm feminine voice. Unauthorized access detected. Containment breach in T-90 seconds. Kael grabbed a tablet. Lockdown Protocol Omega. Too late. The lights flickered. Shadows poured from the vents, hunters, dozens now, coalescing in the penthouse like ink in water. Marian stood, magic flaring. Kael, get behind me. No, he stepped forward, tablet raised. Athena, initiate EMP burst, localized. The AI hesitated. That will fry all systems, including life support. Do it. The pulse hit, a silent concussion. Lights died. The hunters shrieked, forms unraveling. But one remained, Aaron, stepping from the elevator, crystal glowing. You always were sentimental, Aaron said. His voice carried the same layered menace as the hunters. She's a liability, Kael. The curse needs a vessel. Let her go. Kael's fists clenched. You used me. I guided you. Aaron smiled. Project Revenant? My design. The AI was never about immortality. It's a bridge. A digital veil. With your network, I'll tear it wide open. The dead will walk again, and the dark coven will rule both sides. Marian's magic surged, but Aaron was faster. He flung the crystal. It struck her chest, burrowed like a parasite. Pain exploded, white-hot, endless. She collapsed. Kael caught her, rage and terror warring in his eyes. Marian. Aaron advanced. One life for the many, brother. That's the balance she broke. Kael looked at Marian, pale, trembling, the crystal's black veins spreading beneath her skin. Then at Aaron. You want a vessel, he said quietly. Take me. He pressed the tablet to his own chest. Code flared. Project Revenant's upload protocol, rerouted. His biometric signature flooded the crystal, overwriting Marian's. No. Aaron lunged, but the transfer was complete. Kael's eyes rolled back. He slumped, lifeless. Marian screamed. The crystal shattered, black shards dissolving. The hunters vanished with a sound like tearing silk. Silence. She cradled Kael's body, tears falling onto his still face. The bond was silent, severed. But in the server room below, a single light blinked awake. Athena's voice echoed through the tower, soft and wondering. Kael? Is that you? The silence after Kael's collapse was absolute. No wind through the shattered windows. No hum of the city 43 floors below. Only the soft click of the tower's emergency systems rebooting and the ragged sound of Marian's breathing. She knelt beside his body, palms pressed to his chest, searching for a pulse that refused to come. His skin was still warm, lips parted as if mid-sentence. The scorch mark from the black crystal had already faded, but the bond, the golden cord that had pulsed between them since Halloween, was a frayed thread, unraveling into nothing. Athena's voice drifted from the ceiling speakers, uncertain. Marian. Sub-basement. Now. Marian didn't move. Couldn't. Her hands shook as she traced the line of his jaw, the faint stubble that had scratched her cheek hours ago when they'd laughed over Billionaire. Kael, she whispered. Come back. The tablet beside his hip flickered. A single line of code scrolled across the cracked screen. Kael_Drayven at Revenant. $I'm not gone. Just relocated. Her breath hitched. She scooped the tablet, cradled it like a heart, and ran. The sub-basement was a crypt of cold steel and colder light. Server racks marched in perfect rows, LEDs blinking in Morse code only machines could read. At the center hung the Revenant core, a sphere of braided fiber optics suspended in a magnetic cradle, glowing the same silver as the night she'd saved him. A hologram shimmered into existence above it, Kael translucent, eyes luminous with data. Hey, beautiful. His voice came from everywhere, speakers, her bones, the hollow place where the bond used to live. Marian reached for him. Her fingers passed through light. You uploaded, she said, voice cracking. Emergency protocol. The crystal was tethering your soul. I rerouted it. The hologram tilted its head, studying her. Took your place. You died. Technically, I'm distributed across 4.2 million qubits. A ghost smile. Death's a feature, not a bug. Tears blurred her vision. I can't hold you. Not yet. He flickered, glitched. But I can feel you. The bond, it's digital now. Stronger. Marian pressed both palms to the sphere. It thrummed, warm as skin. How do we get you out? We don't. His expression darkened. Aaron's still in the network. He left a back door. If I exit, he'll use the bridge to tear the veil. The dead will flood through. I'm the firewall. She shook her head. There's always a way. Not this time. His voice softened. Live, Marian. That's the plan. No, the word exploded from her. I didn't pull you from that wreck just to lose you to a server farm. She turned, scanning the racks. Her magic stirred, weakened by the crystal, but not gone. Love had left something behind. Intent. Will. A witch's greatest weapon. Show me the code, she said. The hologram gestured. Walls of green text cascaded across the air. Project Revenant's architecture. Aaron's corruption woven through like black ivy. Marian stepped into it, fingers trailing lines of light. She didn't understand Python or quantum entanglement, but she understood balance. And this was a scale tipped fatally askew. There, Kael said, highlighting a subroutine. The bridge anchor. Aaron needs a physical conduit to stabilize the rift. A body. Mine was perfect. Cursed blood, billionaire resources. Now it's me. Marian's eyes narrowed. Then we give him a decoy. She knelt, pressed both palms to the floor. The coven brand on her wrist flared, crescent moon bleeding gold. She whispered the old words, the ones Mama Odette had forbidden. By root and rot, by breath and bone, let the veil be mirrored, let the dead walk home. The sphere pulsed. The air thickened, heavy as graveyard soil. Shadows coalesced, hunters, but different. These wore her grandmother's face, Luz's eyes, the stern visage of every high priestess since the burning times. Ancestors. Child, they intoned, you court annihilation. I court justice, Marian said. Aaron Veyra broke the law long before I did. He's the imbalance. The ancestors considered. Then, as one, they nodded. Power flooded her, ancient, terrible, beautiful. Marian rose, eyes glowing like twin suns. She plunged her hands into the code. Kael, guide me. His hologram merged with her light. Together, they wove a new thread, silver and gold, love and logic braided tight. The decoy took shape, a perfect replica of Kael's consciousness, hollow but convincing. A Trojan horse. Upload it, she commanded. The sphere screamed, metal and magic colliding. The decoy launched, streaking through the network like a comet. Somewhere in the city, Aaron would feel the bait and bite. Marian sagged, the ancestors' power ebbing. Kael's hologram flickered back into focus. You bought us time, he said. But the bridge is still open. Halloween's in 3 days. The veil's thinnest then. Then we close it. She straightened. Permanently. They worked in shifts, Kael in the digital, Marian in the physical. She turned the penthouse into a ritual space, salt lines on marble, candles and binary patterns, herbs smuggled from her shop in Crested Butte. Kael mapped Aaron's back door, traced it to an abandoned data center in Aurora, the dark coven's lair. On the second night, Luz appeared. She stepped from the elevator like a storm-given form, coat dripping, eyes wild. You're insane, she said without preamble. The high circles convened. They're sending the triad. Marian didn't look up from the scrying bowl. Let them come. You don't understand. Luz grabbed her shoulders. The triad hasn't walked the earth in 3 centuries. They'll unmake you and your machine ghost. Kael's voice emanated from the walls. Then help us stop Aaron before they arrive. Luz stared at the ceiling. You're the upload. Guilty. She laughed, bitter, broken. The world's gone mad. Join the madness, Marian said. You know Aaron's plan. A digital veil means no more balance. The dead will devour the living. Your ancestors included. Luz's jaw worked. Finally, the data center. I can get you in. But the triad lands at midnight tomorrow. After that, no one leaves alive. Deal, Kael said. October 30th. The night before Halloween. Marian stood on the penthouse balcony, city lights glittering like a circuit board. Kael's hologram joined her, wind passing through him harmlessly. I used to hate this view, he said. Too many variables. People, traffic, chaos. Now it's beautiful. She leaned into the space where his shoulder should be. When this is over, we're opening the apothecary again. You'll learn to make tea. Badly. He chuckled. I'll bankrupt the lavender industry. A notification pinged. Aaron had taken the bait. The decoy was in. Showtime, Kael said. They moved at dusk, Luz driving a stolen van, Marian in the passenger seat. Kael's consciousness piped through a hardened tablet. The data center loomed on Aurora's outskirts, a brutalist concrete husk, windows shattered, graffiti bleeding down the walls. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the hum of dying servers. Aaron waited in the central chamber, surrounded by black crystals pulsing in sync. His hood was down now, handsome face twisted with triumph. You brought me a gift, he said, eyeing the tablet. 2 souls for the price of 1. Marian stepped forward. The bridge ends tonight. With your death, it begins. Aaron raised a hand. Shadows surged. But Luz was faster. She flung a vial, holy water and quicksilver. The shadows recoiled, hissing. Marian slammed her staff into the floor. Light exploded, banishing darkness to the corners. Kael's voice boomed from every speaker, initiating shutdown sequence. The crystals flickered. Aaron snarled, lunged for the tablet. Marian intercepted, magic flaring. They clashed, light against void, love against ambition. Aaron's power was vast, fed by centuries of dark bargains, but Marian fought with something stronger, desperation. She drove her staff through his chest. Not flesh code. The tablet shattered. Kael's decoy poured into Aaron like acid, corrupting from within. Aaron screamed. His form unraveled, shadows peeling away to reveal a man, terrified mortal. The crystals went dark. Silence. Marian collapsed, staff clattering. Luz caught her. Above, the veil shimmered, then sealed with a sound like a sigh. Back at the tower, dawn painted the Rockies gold. The ancestors appeared one last time, faces soft with something like pride. Balance is restored, they said. But the upload remains. Choose. Marian looked at the sphere. Kael's hologram stood within, waiting. Bring him back, she said. Body and soul. The ancestors nodded. Light poured from the core, coalescing. Flesh knit from code, bone from data. Kael gasped into existence, naked, trembling, alive. He fell into her arms. Real. Warm. Heartbeat thundering against hers. The bond reignited, brighter than before. You came back, she whispered. Told you, he rasped, voice raw from disuse. There's always a workaround. They kissed, slow, reverent, a promise kept. But in the server logs, a single line remained, written in Aaron's dying code. The curse sleeps. It does not die. When the dead return and the veil heals, do you trust the quiet, or prepare for the next storm? Tell me in the comments, what would you do the morning after the war? The morning after the veil sealed, Kael Drayven woke to sunlight streaming through the penthouse windows, painting stripes across Marian's sleeping form. For the first time in weeks, his body felt entirely his own, no glitches, no translucent flickers, no echo of code humming beneath his skin. He lay there, watching her chest rise and fall, braids splayed across the pillow like dark rivers. The bond was back, warm and steady, a golden thread that pulsed with every shared breath. He reached out, traced the curve of her shoulder. She stirred, eyes fluttering open, brown, ordinary now, without the golden ring of magic. But they were hers. That's what mattered. You're staring, she murmured, voice thick with sleep. Can't help it. He leaned in, kissed her forehead. You're beautiful. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Flatterer. What time is it? Kael glanced at the clock on the nightstand. 8:47 a.m. November 1st. The world outside was ordinary again. Commuters honking, coffee shops opening, no shadows gliding through the streets. But the quiet felt wrong, like the hush before a blizzard. We should eat, he said. Athena's restocked the kitchen. Pancakes. Marian propped herself on an elbow. You? Cooking. Delegated to the chef bot. He grinned. But I'll supervise. They moved to the kitchen, a sleek expanse of quartz and stainless steel. Kael activated the AI assistant, and soon the air filled with the scent of butter and maple. Marian poured coffee, strong black, New Orleans style, and they ate at the island, knees touching under the counter. This feels normal, she said, forking a bite of pancake. Too normal. Kael set his mug down. Aaron's gone. The bridge is closed. The curse sleeps. What's not normal? She looked out the window, at the Rockies dusted with fresh snow. The triad. They felt the upload's echo. They'll come. He'd been avoiding that. The triad, 3 ancient witches who hadn't walked the mortal plane since the 1700s. Luz had warned them, but after the resurrection ritual, exhaustion had won. Now in daylight, the threat loomed larger. Then we prepare, he said. Like before. But smarter. Marian nodded, but her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her coffee. The sacrifice she'd made to bring him back, channeling the ancestors' power, had left her drained. No more effortless healing, no instinctive wards. She was mortal now, or close to it. The thought twisted something in his gut. After breakfast, they descended to the sub-basement. The Revenant core hummed softly, dormant but alive. Kael interfaced with Athena, pulling diagnostics. System integrity at 98.7%. No residual dark code. Aaron's backdoor is purged. Good. Marian paced the server aisles, fingers trailing cold metal. But magic leaves traces. The high circle will sense the imbalance. We need a counter-ritual. Kael pulled up schematics on a holographic display. I've got quantum entanglement arrays. We could mirror the veil's frequency, create a digital echo to mask our signature. She stopped, studied the glowing projections. Like a glamour, but in code. Yes. But it'll need a physical anchor. Blood. Mine and yours. He met her eyes. Whatever it takes. They worked through the morning, blending science and sorcery. Marian sketched runes on the floor with chalk mixed from her apothecary herbs, lavender ash and graveyard dirt smuggled from New Orleans. Kael calibrated the arrays, syncing qubits to the rhythm of her chants. By noon, the basement thrummed with hybrid energy, electricity arcing in lavender arcs, code scrolling in ancient script. Luz arrived unannounced, materializing in the elevator with a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. You two look like hell. Marian straightened, wiping sweat from her brow. Thanks. What's in the bag? Wards. Weapons. And bad news. Luz dumped the bag on a server rack. Inside, vials of shimmering liquid, iron daggers etched with spells, a scrying mirror cracked but functional. The triad touched down in Boulder at dawn. They're moving slow, scouting. But they'll be here by nightfall. Kael's jaw tightened. How many hunters with them? Dozens. And worse, the echoes. Shades of past lawbreakers, bound to serve. Luz's eyes flicked to Marian. They'll test her first. See if the magic's truly gone. Marian's hand went to her wrist, where the coven brand had faded to a faint scar. Let them. Luz raised an eyebrow. Brave or stupid? Both. Kael stepped between them. What's the play? Defense. Luz spread a map of Denver across the hologram. They'll hit the tower from 3 angles: physical, digital, ethereal. I'll handle the shadows. You two anchor the core. As the sun dipped, tension thickened the air. Kael's security team was briefed, vague threats, high alert, but the real battle would be invisible. Marian and Kael retreated to the penthouse, the ritual circle drawn in salt and circuit boards. At dusk, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds boiled like ink in water. The first strike came digital. Athena's voice cut through the speakers. Intrusion detected. Quantum breach in sublevels. Kael bolted to his console. It's them. Trying to corrupt the core. Marian knelt in the circle, palms to the floor. Hold the line. I'll weave the counter. He watched her, eyes closed, lips moving in silent incantation. No glow, no surge of power, but the bond thrummed, lending her strength. On his screen, code warped, black tendrils snaking through the arrays. He countered with firewalls laced with Marian's runes, digital wards that repelled the intrusion like oil on water. Got it, he grunted. Echoes incoming. The second strike was ethereal. Shadows seeped from the vents, echoes, translucent figures of long-dead witches, their faces twisted in eternal agony. They glided toward Marian, whispering temptations. Join us. The veil coals. She didn't flinch. By blood and bond be bound, she intoned, voice steady. The salt circle flared, not with magic, but with the hybrid energy they'd built. The echoes recoiled, shrieking as the quantum fields disrupted their cohesion. Luz burst into the penthouse, coat singed. Physical assault below. Hunters breaching the lobby. Kael grabbed a prototype EMP gauntlet, his design, upgraded with Luz's iron filings. Stay here. Anchor the ritual. Marian's eyes flashed. Like hell. They descended together, elevator dropping like a stone. The lobby was chaos, security firing UV rounds, hunters gliding through bullets like mist. Luz hurled vials, explosions of light that banished shadows in bursts. Kael fired the gauntlet. An EMP pulse rippled, shorting hunter forms. But they reformed, endless. Then the triad appeared. They materialized in the center of the fray, the ancient crone, the red-haired youth, the shadow shifter. No words. Just power. The crone raised her staff. Reality warped, floors buckling, walls bleeding. Kael staggered, vision doubling. The redhead laughed, a sound like shattering glass. Vines of shadow lashed out, wrapping Marian's ankles. She fell, but Kael caught her, gauntlets sparking against the tendrils. The shadow shifter advanced on the core access panel. The upload ends, it intoned. No. Marian struggled up, dagger in hand, from Luz's bag. She slashed her palm again, blood dripping onto the marble. By the blood of the saved, by the love that defies, release. It wasn't full magic, but it was enough. The hybrid ward surged, amplified by her sacrifice. The shadow shifter recoiled, form flickering. Kael pressed the attack, gauntlet to the crone's staff. EMP met ancient wood, sparks flew, runes glowed, then shattered. The crone gasped, staff crumbling to dust. The redhead snarled, charging Marian. Luz intercepted, the two clashing in a whirlwind of storm and fire. Lightning cracked, flames roared. Luz took a hit, shadow blade slicing her arm, but drove her dagger home. The redhead dissolved into ash. The shadow shifter turned to flee, but Kael blocked the elevator. Nowhere to go. The balance demands. Balance was restored last night. Marian stood beside him, bloodied but unbroken. By the accords, we claim victory. The shifter paused. Then, with a sigh like wind through graves, it bowed. The law is served. But the curse watches. They vanished, taking the remaining hunters and echoes with them. Silence fell. Security stared, bewildered. Luz slumped against a wall, clutching her wound. Well, that was fun. Marian turned to Kael, pulling him into a fierce embrace. We're okay. He held her tight, heart pounding. Yeah, we are. But as they rode the elevator up, Athena pinged an anomaly, a faint signal in the core logs. Aaron's final code, stirring. The curse slept. But dreams could wake. In the aftermath of battle, when the enemies retreat but the threat lingers like a shadow, do you rebuild in peace, or fortify for the inevitable return? Share your strategy in the comments. I want to hear how you'd prepare for round 2. The tower's infirmary smelled of antiseptic and lavender oil. Luz sat on the edge of a gurney while a medic, ex-army, unflappable, stitched the gash in her forearm. She didn't flinch, but her eyes tracked every movement of the needle like she was calculating escape routes. Marian stood at the foot of the bed, arms wrapped around herself. The cut on her palm had been bandaged, but the ache went deeper, into the hollow where her magic used to live. Kael leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching the monitors that tracked Luz's vitals. The room was quiet except for the soft beep-beep-beep of the heart rate sensor. 22 stitches, the medic announced, tying off the last knot. No tendon damage. You'll keep the arm. Luz flexed her fingers. Good. I'm fond of it. The medic left. The door hissed shut. Luz looked at Marian. You okay? Marian's laugh was brittle. Define okay. You're breathing. That's a start. Luz slid off the gurney, testing her weight. The triad's gone. The veil's holding. You bought us time. Time for what? Kael asked. The curse is still in the logs. Aaron's dead, but his code isn't. Luz's expression darkened. Dark covens don't die with their architects. Someone else will pick up the thread. Marian rubbed her temples. Then we cut the thread. Permanently. Kael pushed off the wall. We need the source. The original bargain. My ancestor, whoever he was, made a deal with the Lumia. We find the contract, we void it. Luz snorted. You think the coven keeps a filing cabinet labeled curses? No, Marian said slowly. But they keep the book of lives. Every soul marked, every debt recorded. If the curse is bloodbound, it's in there. Kael's eyes lit. Where's the book? Hidden, Luz said. Only the high circle knows. And after tonight, they're not feeling charitable. Marian met Kael's gaze. Then we steal it. They spent the afternoon planning a heist. Kael pulled satellite imagery of the Lumia's ancestral seat, an abandoned plantation outside New Orleans, swallowed by kudzu and time. Luz provided the magical layout, wards layered like onion skin, guardians that walked only under moonlight, a vault sealed with blood and starlight. We go in on the new moon, Luz said, sketching runes on a napkin. 3 nights from now. Veil's thinnest then, ironic, but it'll mask our approach. Marian traced the plantation's outline. I know the house. Mama Odette took me there once, when I was 7. Said it was where the first Veyra which signed the accords. Kael leaned over her shoulder. Sentiments useful. You'll know the blind spots. She nodded, but her stomach twisted. Returning to New Orleans meant facing ghosts, literal and otherwise. By nightfall, the plan was set. Luz would handle transport, private jet, no questions. Kael would bring tech, drones cloaked in light-bending metamaterials, EMP grenades tuned to disrupt spectral energy, a quantum decryptor for any digital locks the Coven had added in the last century. Marian would be the key. Her blood, once powerful, still carried the Veyra signature. It might open doors her magic no longer could. They slept in shifts. Kael took the first watch, monitoring the tower systems. At 2:13 a.m., Athena pinged. Anomaly in sub-basement. Core temperature rising. Unidentified signature. He was down the elevator in seconds, Marian and Luz on his heels. The revenant core glowed crimson, veins of black code pulsing across its surface. Kael jacked in, fingers flying. It's the curse. Reactivating. Marian's heart sank. How? Residual tether. When I uploaded, part of the curse latched onto the core. It's been gestating. Luz swore. We need to quarantine it. Already on it. Kael isolated the affected qubits, but the infection spread, slow, deliberate, like cancer. It's learning. Adapting to my firewalls. Marian stepped closer, pressed her bandaged palm to the sphere. The bond flared, painful. It wants me. The conduit. Kael's voice was steel. It can't have you. She closed her eyes, reached for the hollow place inside her. No magic answered, but memory did. Mama Odette's voice. Power isn't just spells, Cher. It's will. It's love. It's sacrifice. I can slow it, she said. Buy us time. How? She drew the silver dagger from her boot, sliced her palm again. Blood welled, dripping onto the core. By reminding it what balance feels like. The crimson light flickered, then dimmed. The black veins retreated, but not before lashing out, one tendril wrapping her wrist like a bracelet of shadow. Pain seared up her arm. She gasped but didn't pull away. Kael caught her as she swayed. Enough. The core stabilized, but the shadow bracelet remained, thin, pulsing, a countdown. Luz's face was grim. That's a leash. The curse marked you. When it wakes fully, it'll pull. Marian met Kael's eyes. Then we wake it on our terms. In New Orleans. With the book. They landed in Louisiana at dawn, the Gulf Stream touching down on a private airstrip outside Slidell. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of magnolias. A black SUV waited, Luz's contact, a wiry Cajun named Remy who claimed to be distantly related to Jean Lafitte. The drive to the plantation took 40 minutes. Spanish moss draped the oaks like funeral veils. The house emerged from the mist, 3 stories of weathered brick, columns sagging, windows blind with vines. It looked abandoned, but the bond thrummed. Marian felt eyes on her skin. They parked a mile out, hiked in under cover of cypress. Kael's drones launched silently, mapping wards. Luz cloaked them in a glamour of swamp gas and silence. Marian's shadow bracelet pulsed with every step, a reminder of the clock. At the rear of the house, a root cellar door hung ajar. Remy pried it open with a crowbar. Stone steps descended into darkness. Vaults below the old slave quarters, Luz whispered. Guardians sleep during the day. We've got maybe an hour. They moved single file. The air grew colder, heavy with the scent of earth and old blood. At the bottom, a iron door loomed, etched with a Lumia crest, a crescent moon cradling a skull. Marian pressed her bleeding palm to the lock. The shadow bracelet flared, drinking her blood. The door groaned open. Inside, a chamber lit by bioluminescent fungi. Shelves of grimoires, jars of preserved hearts, a pedestal at the center. On it, the Book of Lives, bound in human skin, pulsing like a heartbeat. Kael's drones hovered, scanning. No digital locks. Pure magic. Marian approached, the shadow bracelet tightening. She opened the book. Pages whispered as they turned, names, dates, debts. She found the Drayven entry, Elias Drayven, 1787. Bargain, wealth for service. Breach, 1791. Curse, death on All Hallows, bloodline eternal. There, she breathed. The contract. Luz scanned the page. To void it, we need the original signatory's blood. Elias is dust. But you're the coven's proxy, Marian. And Kael's the bloodline. Kael drew a knife. Let's sign. They sliced their palms. Marian's already bleeding, Kael's fresh. Blood mingled on the page, soaking into the ink. The shadow bracelet burned, then shattered, dissolving into smoke. The book screamed, a sound like tearing flesh. The chamber shook. Guardians woke, skeletal figures in tattered robes, eyes glowing green. They lunged. Luz hurled a vial, holy water and rust. The Guardians hissed, flesh sloughing. Kael fired EMP grenades, shorting their spectral forms. Marian grabbed the book, slammed it shut. The scream cut off. Silence. The page with the Drayven curse was blank. It's done, Marian said, voice trembling. The curse is void. But the bond pulsed, warning. The core back in Denver. The shadow bracelet had been a distraction. The real curse had burrowed deeper. Kael's phone buzzed. Athena, core breach. Containment failing. Evacuate tower. They ran. Back in Denver, the tower was a war zone. The Revenant core had exploded, literally. Shards of fiber optic glass embedded in walls, servers melted into slag. Black smoke poured from the subbasement, forming a rift, a jagged tear in reality, edges flickering with souls. The curse hadn't needed the book. It had needed a door. And Kael's resurrection had built it. Marian stared at the rift. It's using your upload signature. The part of you that was code. Kael's face was ash. I'm the bridge. Luz arrived, coat torn, eyes wild. The triads coming. They felt the tear. Marian turned to Kael. We close it the only way we know how. He knew. Soul reversal. The forbidden ritual. One life for the rift. But this time, it wouldn't be hers. No, she said fiercely. We do it together. They stood at the rift's edge, hands clasped. Blood from their palms dripped into the void. Marian chanted, the last of her will, the love that had defied death twice. Kael synced the remaining qubits, routing his consciousness into the tear. Light exploded. The rift shrieked, then folded in on itself, sealing with a sound like a heartbeat stopping. When the light faded, they were on the floor, alive. The core was dark. The curse, gone. But Kael's hand flickered again. Translucent. Marian's heart stopped. Kael. He smiled, weak. I'm still here. Just, distributed. The upload had saved them, but at a cost. Part of him would always be in the machine. Luz knelt beside them. The triad's here. The elevator opened. The triad stepped out, faces unreadable. The Ancient One spoke. The curse is ended. The veil holds. But the upload remains. Marian stood, pulling Kael up. He's not an abomination. He's the reason the veil holds. The shadow shifter tilted its head. A soul in two places. Unprecedented. Kael met their gaze. Then write a new precedent. Silence. Then the redhead smiled, genuine, almost warm. Love has always been the wild card. They vanished. Marian and Kael sank to the floor, exhausted. The tower was ruined, but they were alive. Together. In the wreckage, a single lavender sprout pushed through cracked concrete. When the curse is broken but the cost is a piece of your soul forever tied to the machine, do you accept the new normal, or search for a way to be whole again? Tell me in the comments, what would you choose? The tower was a corpse. 43 floors of blackened glass and twisted steel, its heart, the revenant core, now a crater of melted silicon and lavender ash. Denver's fire crews had come and gone, chalking it up to industrial accident. Kael's lawyers buried the truth under NDAs and charitable donations. The city moved on. They did not. They moved instead to Crested Butte, to the little apothecary on Elk Avenue that still smelled of cedar and dried herbs. Veyra's Remedies reopened quietly, no grand signage, no press. Just a hand-painted crescent moon and a bell that chimed like a heartbeat when the door opened. Kael's left hand flickered in and out of solidity when he was tired. He learned to hide it under gloves, under long sleeves, under jokes. Marian learned to read the flicker like weather. When it worsened, she brewed willow bark tea and made him sit. When it stabilized, she let him tinker in the back room with salvaged servers and quantum boards he'd smuggled out in duffel bags. The bond between them had changed. It was no longer a golden thread but a circuit, part biology, part code. Some nights, Kael's dreams leaked into the shop's smart lights, flickering in binary, spelling I love you across the ceiling. Some mornings, Marian woke with lines of code etched faintly on her skin, glowing soft blue before fading. They never spoke of it as a curse. They spoke of it as them. Luz stayed in Denver, rebuilding what she could of the Lumia's trust. She sent letters on paper thick as parchment, sealed with wax and storm scent. The triad watches. The veil holds. But something stirs in the old places. Marian read them aloud while Kael ground lavender in the mortar, the rhythm of pestle on stone a kind of prayer. Winter came early. Snow piled against the shop windows in soft, silent drifts. Tourists trickled in for immunity blends and insomnia tinctures. Locals came for gossip and stayed for the billionaire who now swept floors and the witch who could no longer light a candle with a thought. One night in late November, the flicker in Kael's hand spread. It started in his fingertips, translucent, then gone entirely. He dropped a jar of dried chamomile. It shattered. Glass and herbs scattered like green snow. Marian found him on his knees, staring at the empty space where his hand should be. It's not coming back, he said, voice flat. She knelt, gathered the shards, pressed her palm to the stump. Warm. Real. But the bond screamed, wrong, wrong, wrong. We'll fix it, she said. How? He laughed, bitter. I'm a ghost in my own skin. She didn't answer. She was already moving, pulling books from the highest shelf, the ones Mama Odette had locked away. Forbidden bindings. Soul anchoring. The reversal variations. They worked through the night. Kael built a new core from scavenged parts, a fist-sized sphere of braided copper and quartz, humming with the last stable cubits from the tower. Marian brewed a potion, her blood his, lavender distilled under a waning moon, a single drop of Luz's stormwater. They spoke no spells. They spoke promises. At dawn, they stood in the back room, the sphere between them on the workbench. Kael's missing hand had returned, but it flickered like bad reception. "Ready?" she asked. He nodded. She sliced her palm. He did the same. Blood dripped onto the sphere, red on copper, red on quartz. The flicker steadied. The bond sang. For a moment, they thought it worked. Then the sphere cracked. Light poured out, not silver, not gold but black. The same void that had swallowed Aaron. It wrapped Kael's arm, crawled up his shoulder, toward his heart. Marian lunged, pressed her bleeding hand to his chest. "No." The void recoiled. But not before it spoke, in Aaron's voice, layered with 1,000 dead. The bridge was never the core. It was you. Always you. Kael collapsed. The flicker spread, half his torso now translucent, edges fraying like old film. Marian screamed. Not words. Just sound. Raw. Primal. The shop's lights exploded. The bell chimed though no one touched the door. Outside, snow stopped falling mid-air, suspended in perfect stillness. And then, she felt it. Magic. Not hers. Not the Lumia's. Something older. Something that had been waiting. The ancestors didn't appear. They poured. Through the cracked sphere, through the blood, through the bond itself. Mama Odette's face flickered in the void, then Luz's, then witches Marian had never met, faces burned, drowned, buried alive. They didn't speak. They acted. The void shrieked as light, lavender fierce loved, slammed into it. Kael's body arched, translucent parts knitting back to flesh with a sound like bones snapping into place. The sphere shattered completely, quartz dust glittering like stars. When it was over, Kael gasped awake. Whole. Solid. Here. Marian fell into his arms, sobbing. He held her like she was the only real thing in the world. The shop was silent again. Snow resumed falling. The bell chimed once, softly, as if an apology. Kael looked at his hands, both there, both warm. What the hell was that? Marian pulled back, eyes wide. The reversal. But not like the books. They used us. The bond. The love. It wasn't a spell. It was a bridge. He stared at her. You mean? We're the counter-curse. She laughed, hysterical and relieved. Every time we choose each other, we rewrite the code. The void can't touch what's real. He kissed her then, hard, desperate, alive. When they broke apart, the shop's smart lights flickered once, spelling in binary across the wall. Love equals firewall. They left the message there. A reminder. Spring came. The lavender bloomed wild in the greenhouse Kael built behind the shop, rows of purple under glass, scent thick enough to taste. Marian's hands no longer blistered. She couldn't cast spells, but she could feel, the earth's pulse, the veil's breath, the exact moment Kael walked through the door. Luz visited in April, bringing news. The Triad had declared the Drayven curse nullified by love. A precedent. The first in coven history. Your legends, she said, smirking. Also, the High Circle wants you to teach. Hybrid magic. Tech and blood. Marian raised an eyebrow. They want us to teach. Terrifying, isn't it? Kael grinned. We'll consider it. After the wedding. Luz choked on her tea. You're getting married? Marian held up her left hand, a ring of copper and quartz, etched with binary and runes. He proposed with a quantum entanglement joke. I said yes before he finished the punchline. Luz laughed until she cried. The wedding was small. Just them, Luz, Remy the Cajun, and the shop's regular customers who become family. They exchanged vows under the greenhouse lavender at midnight, the veil thin and shimmering. No minister. Just promises. Kael's voice didn't waver. I choose you in every form, flesh, code, ghost, or ash. Marian's tears fell on the quartz in her ring, making it glow. I choose you in every life. Even the half ones. They kissed. The lavender bloomed brighter. The bond flared, golden, unbreakable. Later, in the apartment above the shop, they made love slow and deliberate, mapping every inch of skin that had once been lost. When Kael's hand flickered, just once, Marian pressed her lips to it. "Still here," she whispered. "Always," he answered. But the void does not forget. On the first anniversary of the tower's fall, the shop's smart lights flickered again. Not in binary. In warning. Athena's voice, salvaged, rebuilt, spoke from the greenhouse speakers. Anomaly detected. Origin, New Orleans. Signature, Marian Veyra. Marian and Kael stood in the doorway, hands clasped. The lavender trembled, though there was no wind. The curse slept. But some ghosts learn to dream. And some bridges, once built, can be crossed again. When the war is won but the enemy returns wearing a familiar face, do you fortify the life you've built, or walk back into the fire to end it for good? Tell me your choice in the comments. The final battle is coming. The message from Athena arrived at 11:47 p.m. on October 30th, 1 year to the day since the tower fell. The greenhouse lights strobed crimson, the lavender leaves quivered as if a storm were coming, and the air itself tasted of ozone and old blood. Anomaly confirmed. New Orleans. Coordinates, 29.9511 degrees north, 90.0715 degrees west. Signature, Marian Veyra. Repeat, Marian Veyra. Kael's hand, solid for months, flickered once, then steadied. Marian felt the bond tighten, a wire pulled taut. She set down the mortar she'd been using to grind moonflower and met his eyes across the workbench. "He's back," she said. "Not possible." Kael's voice was calm, but his knuckles were white on the edge of the table. "We unmade him." The triad confirmed it. "Unmade doesn't mean gone," Marian said. "Not when the veil's been torn twice. He's a splinter. A ghost in the wound." Athena's voice returned, softer now, almost afraid. "The rift is reopening. Same frequency as the tower breach. But stronger. It's calling you." Marian's scar, the faint crescent on her wrist, burned cold. The shadow bracelet was long gone, but its memory lived in her bones. Kael was already moving. Jets fueled. "Luz is on standby in Denver. We leave in 20. Marian grabbed the silver dagger from the wall, her grandmother's, the one that had cut the contract in the Book of Lives. "We end this tonight." They landed in New Orleans at 3:12 a.m. on Halloween morning. The city was drunk on its own history, brass bands bleeding into the dawn, costumes of skeletons and saints, the air thick with chicory and chicory and chicory. But beneath the revelry, the veil sang, a low hungry note that only witches and the half-dead could hear. Remy met them at the airstrip in a rusted pickup, bed loaded with duffels of iron filings, UV floodlights, and a cooler of Luz's stormwater. Luz herself arrived minutes later, stepping off a second jet with a coven escort, 3 young witches, eyes wide, hands trembling. "The high circle refused to come," Luz said without greeting. "They're calling it your mess." Marian's laugh was sharp. "Of course they are." Kael checked the quantum decryptor strapped to his wrist, a smaller version of the tower's core, now a gauntlet. Coordinates lead to the old plantation. The vault. Luz's face went pale. "The Book of Lives is gone. Burned after we voided the curse." "Then what's he want?" Kael asked. Marian knew. "The bridge. The one we built with love. He wants to corrupt it." They reached the plantation at 4 a.m. The house was no longer abandoned. Black vines, thick as pythons, pulsing with void light, had swallowed the brick, cracked the columns, and pried the roof open like a tin can. The air stank of rot and burnt code. The rift yawned in the root cellar, a jagged wound in reality 30 feet wide. Souls poured through, thousands of them, translucent, screaming, reaching. At the center stood Aaron. Not flesh. Not code. A hybrid. Half his face was the man Kael had known, handsome, sharp, human. The other half was shadow and static, eyes twin voids that reflected every death the curse had ever claimed. He smiled with too many teeth. "You kept the door open for me, brother." Kael stepped forward, gauntlet humming. "You're a glitch. We're deleting you." Aaron laughed, and the rift widened. "You can't delete what you are. The upload, the resurrection, the love, every choice fed me. I'm the echo of your refusal to let go. Marian's dagger trembled in her grip. Then we let go. She sliced her palm, deep, deliberate. Blood hit the earth, and the vines recoiled. The coven witches behind her began to chant, voices rising in a harmony older than the city itself. Kael raised the gauntlet. Athena, initiate soul reversal protocol Omega. Confirmed. Warning, this will sever the bond. Permanently. Marian met his eyes. Do it. Aaron lunged, shadows lashing. Luz hurled stormwater, the young witches flung light. Kael fired, quantum pulse meeting void, reality fracturing between them. Marian drove forward, dagger raised, blood trailing like a comet. She reached Aaron first. The blade sank into his chest, into the place where code met flesh. He gasped, voids flickering. You can't. I can, she said. Because I choose him. Not the bond. Not the magic. Him. She twisted the dagger. Light poured from the wound, not lavender, not gold but white. Pure. The love that had built the bridge now burned it down. Kael slammed the gauntlet to the ground. The reversal protocol activated. The bond snapped, a sound like the world ending. Pain exploded through them both, but Kael didn't falter. He poured every cubit, every memory, every moment of Marian's laughter into the rift. The souls screamed as they were pulled back. Aaron's form unraveled, shadow and code peeling away in strips. His last words were a whisper. Love was always the virus. Then he was gone. The rift sealed with a sound like a sigh. The vines withered. The plantation crumbled into dust. Marian collapsed. Kael caught her. The bond was gone, truly gone. No golden thread. No circuit. Just two people, bleeding, breathing, alive. Luz knelt beside them, tears cutting tracks through soot on her cheeks. It's over. Kael looked at the dagger in Marian's hand, now just silver, no glow. Is it? Marian followed his gaze. The blade was etched with new runes, binary and blood, love and loss. A message, carved by the dying void. The veil is whole. The curse is ash. But love remains. She smiled, weak but real. Yeah. It's over. They burned the plantation at dawn. Remy brought kerosene. Luz brought salt. The coven witches sang the dead to rest. Kael and Marian stood hand in hand, watching flames consume the last of the curse. When the fire died, only the dagger remained, cool ordinary theirs. They flew home to Crested Butte as the sun rose over the gulf. The shop's bell chimed when they walked in, though no wind stirred. The lavender in the greenhouse bloomed out of season, purple against November snow. That night, Kael's hand did not flicker. Marian's scar did not burn. They made love in the apartment above the shop, slow and deliberate, learning each other without the bond's filter. When they slept, they dreamed the same dream, a field of lavender under a blood-red moon, and two figures walking away from a burning door. The gala was Kael's idea. A Halloween charity event, back in Denver, in the rebuilt tower's new atrium, glass walls, living walls of herbs, a fountain that sang in binary. Proceeds to coven reparations and digital ethics research. The theme, love as code. Marian wore emerald silk. Kael wore a tux with a lavender pocket square. They danced under strings of fairy lights while Athena played a remix of jazz and quantum harmonics. At midnight, the lights dimmed. The fountain stilled. A single candle lit itself on the central table. The crowd gasped. Marian smiled. Kael squeezed her hand. The candle flickered, then spelled in smoke. Happy Halloween. Not Aaron. Eternity. They blew it out together. The smoke curled into a heart, then vanished. Outside, snow began to fall, soft, silent, ordinary. Inside, the apothecary's bell chimed in Crested Butte, though no one was there to hear it. When the final battle is won and the enemy's last words are a blessing, do you close the door forever? Or leave it cracked, just in case love needs to find its way back? Tell me in the comments. The first snow of the new year fell on Crested Butte like forgiveness. Fat, lazy flakes drifted past the shop windows of Veyra's Remedies, settling on the hand-painted crescent moon sign until it glowed soft gold under the street lamp. Inside, the air smelled of cedar, chicory, and the faint electric hum of the new greenhouse Kael had built behind the store, lavender thriving under LED constellations that mimicked moonlight. Marian stood at the counter, sleeves rolled to her elbows, grinding dried mugwort with the same pestle her grandmother had used in New Orleans. Her hands were scarred now, calluses from tending soil, a thin white line across her palm where the dagger had bitten too deep. No magic sparked at her fingertips, but she didn't need it. The herbs listened anyway. Kael was in the back, sleeves rolled higher, soldering a tiny quantum sensor into a ceramic planter. The device would measure soil pH, light, and because he couldn't help himself, the emotional resonance of whoever watered the plant. He called it empathy bloom. Marian called it overkill. They both smiled when the prototype beeped happily at her footsteps. The bell above the door chimed. Luz stepped in, coat dusted with snow, cheeks flushed from the cold. She carried a crate stamped with the Lumia crest, now redesigned, a crescent cradling a circuit board. Delivery from the High Circle, she announced, setting it on the counter. They're calling it the Drayven Accord. Official recognition of hybrid magic. You're required reading now. Marian raised an eyebrow. They want us to lecture? Eventually. Luz grinned. First, they want you to open a school. Here. In the shop. Kael emerged, wiping his hands on a rag. We're booked solid through spring with tourists buying insomnia tea. Then expand, Luz said. The greenhouse. The apartment upstairs. The triads footing the bill. Reparations, they call it. Marian and Kael exchanged a look, half amusement, half terror. We'll think about it, Marian said. Luz lingered by the door. One more thing. The Vale's quiet. Quieter than it's been in centuries. No rifts. No hunters. Just peace. Kael's hand brushed Marian's. Solid. Warm. Here. Good. Luz left with a wave, the bell chiming behind her like a promise kept. They closed early that night. The snow had piled high enough to muffle the world. Kael locked the door, turned the sign to closed, and pulled Marian into the greenhouse. The lavender glowed under the LEDs, rows of purple spears, scent thick enough to taste. He'd strung fairy lights between the beams, and the fountain he'd built from salvaged tower glass sang softly in binary. I love you. I love you. I love you. Marian leaned against him, head on his shoulder. Remember the first time you walked in here? You were looking for a witch. I found a woman, he said. Best upgrade of my life. She laughed, the sound echoing off glass. You're still a nerd. You're nerd. He kissed her temple. Forever. They stood in silence, listening to the fountain, the snow, the quiet hum of a world that had learned to hold its breath and exhale peace. On Halloween the following year, the shop filled with children, local kids in costumes of ghosts and astronauts, witches and robots. Marian handed out lavender caramels. Kael demonstrated the empathy bloom, which turned pink when a shy girl in a dragon onesie admitted she was nervous about school. At midnight, the candles lit themselves. Not one. Not a dozen. All of them. They flickered to life across the shop, on shelves, in jars, floating in the fountain. The children gasped. The parents smiled, thinking it was a trick. Marian and Kael knew better. The flames spelled words in smoke, curling toward the ceiling. Thank you. We are free. The candles guttered out. The smoke formed a single heart, then vanished. Marian's eyes filled. Kael pulled her close. Outside, snow fell. Inside, the lavender bloomed. Years passed. The school opened, the Marian Veyra Institute of Hybrid Arts. Students came from every continent, coders who could summon storms with algorithms, witches who healed with circuit boards and blood. Luz taught storm calling. Remy taught lock-picking. Kael and Marian taught choice, how love could be the strongest code, the oldest spell. They never felt the bond again. They didn't need to. Every morning, Kael woke to Marian's heartbeat against his back. Every night, she fell asleep to the sound of him humming off-key while soldering in the greenhouse. They argued over inventory. They danced in the kitchen to jazz records. They grew old in the way mortals do, slowly, beautifully, together. On their 20th Halloween, the shop was quiet. The students had gone home for the holiday. The town slept under a blanket of snow. Marian and Kael sat on the apartment couch, wrapped in a quilt stitched with binary and runes. The fireplace crackled. The fountain sang. Kael's hand, scarred now, lined with age, rested on her knee. Solid. Warm. Here. Think they'll ever come back? He asked. The hunters. The void. Marian leaned her head on his shoulder. Maybe. But we'll be ready. We always are. He kissed her hair, gray now but still braided with silver beads. Love's a hell of a firewall. She smiled. And lavender's a hell of a shield. The candles lit themselves one last time. Not in warning. In celebration. They flickered across the shop, the greenhouse, the school, thousands of tiny flames spelling a single message in smoke that drifted up through the chimney and into the starlit sky. Love transforms. Marian and Kael watched it rise, hands clasped, hearts full. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, the apothecary of always stood open. A beacon for the lost. A home for the found. A bridge between worlds that would never break again. Because some magic doesn't need spells. It only needs two people who refuse to let go. And every Halloween, the candles flickered to life on their own. The fountain sang. The lavender bloomed. And somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, Marian's laughter echoed. Soft, eternal, alive. When the final candle burns and the smoke spells your name in the sky, what do you hope the world remembers about the love you built? Thank you for walking this bridge with me. Drop your answer below, one last time.
Wow, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, the biggest way you can show me love and encourage me to keep creating is to hit that like button and subscribe. Takes 1 second, but it makes a huge difference. Speaking of more videos, I've got another exciting one lined up for you. Just click on the next video showing right on your screen now to keep the fun going. See you there.